Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sharp Side Saturdays. We got a very special guest today, my good friend John Bollman, here to give us his favorite MLB pick of the day. John, this is your second time coming on the podcast. We're super excited about baseball being back. Big slate today. What's your favorite game on there?
Yeah, no, as always, thank you for having me. But I've got to go right back to the Angels on the money line, minus 115 against the Blue Jays here. So the Blue Jays have pitched their top three relievers in 3 of the last 4 days. Jordan Romano, Eric Swanson, and Yimi Garcia all pitched 3 of the last 4 days. I highly doubt they'll be available to pitch four of the next 5 days. So essentially, the Blue Jays either need a blowout or an absolutely dominant starting pitching performance to win. Well, they have Jose Barrios going today, so I highly doubt they get a dominant pitching performance. You have Tyler Anderson on the other side, who didn't allow a run in his first start. So that really narrows down the ways that the Blue Jays can win this game. I think the Angels bounce back behind Tyler Anderson and get the win here.
Yeah, last night was rough for Angels backers, myself included. I mean, it's it's just one of those things where it's like they have these great players, and the rest of the team can't always back them up. But I agree. I think it's a great spot for them today, and I'll be on that as well. Myself, going to cover UFC as always. We have a big fight card tonight, UFC 287, taking place in Miami, headlined by Adesanya and Pereira. But the fight I'm going to touch on is Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. I like Rob Font a lot here as an underdog. You get him plus 155, plus 160. I think you're getting the better minute winner here, who's fought better competition, who has wrestling upside. Font's lost 2 in a row, but those were 5-round fights to Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera, who were top-tier fighters. In those fights, they're both kind of anomalies in the sense that Rob Font was out-voluming both of them by wide margins. Vera, in particular, was one of the biggest discrepancies in strikes landed versus the outcome. So never has that happened where a fighter has landed so much more than their opponent and ended up losing the fight. And Font did take a lot of damage in that fight, but what's very reassuring for me is he took a full year off. That fight was in April of 2022. It's obviously April of 2023 right now. So he took an adequate amount of time off to recover. He's fighting a guy in Adrian Yanez who has a pretty UFC record, but if you look a little bit closer at his level of competition, his most recent wins over Tony Kelly, who's not in the UFC anymore. He beat Randy Costa, who's not in the UFC anymore. If you remember, Randy Costa was owning him in that first round until he gassed out. He's a split decision win over Davey Grant, wins over Gustavo Lopez, Victor Rodriguez, who are no longer in the UFC. This is a big jump up in competition for him. I think that Font's going to be landing his jab here. I think that Font could potentially get takedowns if he wants to. Yanez has not really been tested by a grappler in the UFC. I think it's just a little bit of recency bias. So I love the plus 150, plus 160 on Rob Font here. So John likes the Angels. I like Rob Font in the UFC. Obviously, the point of this show is quick hits. Want to bring to you plus EV plays that are able to fit in a 5-minute segment. So, John, appreciate you being here as always. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on John Bollman 11 on Twitter. Got a bunch of other social medias, but that's probably the best one to follow me at.
Yeah, and also important to note that John doesn't just cover MLB. He does a lot of college baseball when the World Baseball Classic was going on. So if you're a baseball fan or a betting fan, I mean, he really does it all. It's crazy. I see all your stuff that comes out, and you're putting in crazy work to cover all kinds of different organizations, I guess the word would be. So it's really fun to follow along. I recommend everyone do so. I definitely will. And then myself at Bets and Picks MMA on Twitter. As always, we are here Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern time for Sharp Side Saturdays. So we will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.